Recall that at the end of our chapter on dictionaries, we briefly discussed using dictionaries to create object-like structures. Specifically, we said that if we use the same keys across multiple dictionaries, we were effectively creating objects. So check out the similarity here. For simplicity, I'll use the name class since it only involves two variables, first name and last name. Now what I could do is I could create a dictionary called myNameDict with a key first name and a value David and a key last name and a value Joiner. Or I could create a variable called myNameInst, which is an instance of the name class, and its first name is David and its last name is Joiner. The result is effectively the same. Getting the value corresponding to the first name key out of myNameDict gives me David. Getting the variable first name out of the instance of name called myNameInst also gets me David. Two routes to effectively the same result, at least for now. So let's pause for a second and look at how far we've actually come. We started with strings and noted that strings were just lists of characters in order. Last name, for example, is a string comprised of the letters L, A, S, T, and A, M, E in that order. We could access each of them using those indices. Then we noted that lists and tuples were basically the same thing. It's just that they weren't just characters, they could be strings or numbers or any other type. So whereas a string was a list of characters, a tuple or a list could be a list of any type of data. The key distinguishing factor for all of this was that they were always accessed via these indices. But for dictionaries, we noted that we didn't have to use numeric indices. Instead, we could use keys like first name. That makes it easier to figure out what we're actually getting at. We have to remember what the index of 3 refers to, but it's a lot easier to remember that first name indicates the first name. And we noted that this is basically the same as variables. Keys and values are basically the same as variables and values. Now we've done objects and we're kind of coming back around full circle. We're preserving the benefit of dictionaries of actually having logical variable names, but we're allowing ourselves to organize things more intuitively, like making names that are comprised of multiple individual strings. All of this has really been about different ways of organizing data that makes it as easy as possible to use. But more narrowly on the topic of objects and dictionaries, if objects and dictionaries can be used in such similar fashions, what is the benefit of using objects instead of dictionaries? Well, first, by defining classes, or by using objects, we guarantee that the keys are what we expect them to be. With a dictionary, we might not have created a certain key, but with classes, we guarantee that every variable created in that initializer actually exists. The bigger benefit, though, is that classes can have methods as well as variables. Dictionaries were purely ways of organizing data, but that data couldn't do anything on its own. We could do stuff to it, but the data couldn't do anything, which sounds a little bit weird, but you'll see what I mean in a minute. So in other words, dictionaries only store data, whereas classes can themselves act on data. Now, of course, right here, it might also seem that one of the major benefits of a dictionary is we can define everything on one line, whereas we can't currently do that with a class. First, that's not actually a benefit. Using fewer lines isn't actually a good thing. It's not a bad thing either, it's just not a good goal in and of itself. But more importantly, we actually can write classes such that they take on initial values that we give them instead of their own default initial values. Let's see how to do that next.